All right. Again, this is the Ascribe version 8.0 community preview. Ascribe version 8.0 is actually coming out on September 19th of 2014. That's 2 Fridays from now. And the reason we have this community preview is to give you a chance to acclimate yourself to the release prior to it going live, so you can give your feedback, prepare your team, and really know what's coming with the release. I'm going to give you access to our test servers. You'll only have access through this week. We actually lock it down next week for the actual release. So if you do want to kind of get in and give it a test drive, I'll be giving you access to that today. We'll be talking about the test server considerations, how to access the test server, how to report any issues or bugs if you do find any. And then, of course, we'll get into the demo of what's new and then open the floor for questions. So test server considerations. Those of you that have been through a community preview before know this, but I know we've got some new faces in the group, or at least some new names in the group. The test server that you're working on is not the live database. It can be, it's actually hosted here, somewhere here in Ohio. It used to be in Cincinnati, I believe now it's a little further north. But it's noticeably slower than our live servers. It does a good job, but it is a few seconds slower than our live servers. Any work that you do on the test server can be erased at any time. It's usually not, but it can be. And we urge you not to conduct any live work on the test servers for that reason. The database that we're using is actually from July of 2014. We have had to reset a few passwords for people when passwords have changed since July. If any users or accounts added in the past month will not exist on the test server, so we'll have to add those for you as well. If you find that you can't access it, just let us know and we'll help you out. The restored database and the live database are very similar. So the test server is basically just the way our servers looked in July of 2014. So you'll see that there will be some of the same jobs will be on your live server and your test server. We just ask that you be very careful, be aware of the version you're using to avoid any mishaps. Of course, we're doing daily updates. Those are usually in the morning on FR server, in the morning Eastern time, I should say. And of course, we ask that if you do run into any issues or bugs or have anything that you need to send to us, to do that as soon as possible. And we ask that you report any issues, questions, bugs, or suggestions to support@languagelogic.net. The support team is ready and willing to help us with this version 8.0 community preview. And they do ask that you include a couple of details when you send an email to support. First of all, if it's concerning version 8.0, please put version 8.0 in the subject of the email. That way they respond to live work a little quicker than they would to a community preview. So issues. So again, just put version 8.0 in the subject of the email. And then, of course, the area of the software, the tool that you're using. And this also pertains to any time that you contact support. It's always good to give them as many details as possible. So the area of the software or the tool you're in use, the account that you're using, your study ID, question ID, or code book that you're having an issue with or you have a question about. A screenshot is always so helpful if you can do that. A description of the problem, the issue, or the bug, any error details, and a new email for each issue with a new subject. All right, so what I'm going to be talking about today, just briefly, first of all, this version 8.0 is our modernization / usability uniformity release. We're going to start out talking about our homepage renovation. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the cohesive look and feel that has been applied throughout the software. We're going to talk about our updated tables and grids. And then I'm going to get into some Ascribe coder enhancements and talk about Accelerator, the modernization of Ascribe Accelerator. All right. To access the test server, it's fr.test.languagelogic.net/ascribe. Again, you can download this PowerPoint in the materials section in your GoToMeeting dashboard, or you can just write this down now if you like. And if you have any problems whatsoever, just contact support@languagelogic.net and we'll get you going on the test server. We are keeping this community preview open through Friday of this week. All right. I believe that's it, and we can now get to the actual demo. Here it is. Okay, so this is Ascribe. You'll see that I'm logged into fr.test, languagelogic.net. So this is Ascribe version 8.0. I will be using Chrome today. It's my preferable browser for using Ascribe. And the first thing you'll note is that when you navigate to version 8.0, you will get a new sign-in screen. The home page is kind of blurred out in the background. I think if you're using IE, it is not blurred out, but in this case, it is blurred out. We ask you for your account. I'm logging into my version 8.0 account, your username, and your password. All right, so this is kind of a precursor to the whole look and feel of Ascribe version 8.0. Oh, and of course, how did I do that? Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so this is the home page. The first time you access the home page, what you'll encounter is this overlay. And this overlay just points out the different things on the home page, because you'll notice immediately that our blue menu for navigation is no longer available. Okay, so this overlay is pointing out where our navigation menu is, that we have this new pull-out menu. You have access to what's new. You can actually access the help system, and it talks about navigating through the Ascribe application. So we've got product-based navigation. And of course, this little guy down here, the one-click navigation. I'm going to be talking about all of that here in a second. But the overlay, you'll be seeing more of these overlays as you as we introduce new tools or as we rewrite tools. You'll notice today in Ascribe Coder, you can get to an overlay like this as well when you access the help system. Okay. All right, so to get rid of the overlay, you just have to click somewhere on the page, and the overlay is gone. To get it back, you just hit F1, and it will come back. There we go. All right, so to start out and work my way through this list of things to introduce you to, first of all, we no longer have right-click white space navigation. If you right-click on white space, you'll get absolutely nothing. Rather, we now have the navigation icon. So we click on the navigation icon and get our our privilege, Ascribe privilege level navigation. Okay? So no right-click and white space navigation. And I'll say that a few times. We have to use the navigation icon. For those of you using Ascribe Coder, you should be a little used to this, because in Ascribe Coder, we have to use the navigation icon, and most of us should be using Ascribe Coder. Okay, so that's the first thing. You'll notice that we do have our main products, an icon for our main products here on the home page, being Coder, Inspector, Accelerator, and Illustrator. If your account does not license Inspector or Illustrator, these will be grayed out. So Ascribe Coder, clicking on this actually gives us direct access to Coder. So if I click on the Ascribe Coder icon, I have product-based navigation. It'll take me directly to Ascribe Coder. So Ascribe Coder is in the background, grayed out, and I have this little dialog box that shows me all of the questions that I've recently accessed. So it's showing me Q11, Q11_6, Q1, and QFun, plus an accelerator that I've recently accessed. All right. You could also access any, it shows you studies where you might have questions assigned to you. So all of these questions are currently assigned to me, and I can have direct access to those. Or I could search for a study or question. If I wanted to access Q11, I click on it, and I'm now in Q11 for Laura's study. Okay, I'm going to pop back to the home page to talk a little bit more about navigation from the home page. This is actually available today, the direct access to Ascribe Coder. In your menu today in Ascribe, what you'll notice is that we have direct access to, well, and it's not here, but it is in your menu today in Ascribe. We do have direct access to Ascribe Coder, top-level access to Ascribe Coder that takes you directly to Ascribe Coder without having to go through supervisor studies, and gives you access to your recently accessed questions and any studies that you have questions assigned to you. All right, so also on these icons, we have these three little dots. And the three little dots, you'll be seeing more of those throughout Ascribe as well. The three little dots are the same as our right-click menu. So I could also right-click on Coder to get these items to come up. Basically, you see these on your tablets or on your smartphones, and they're there again to replicate a right-click when you have no means of right-clicking. So we could get direct access to studies, samples, or ship studies just by clicking on these three little dots or right-clicking on the Coder icon. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is the more information here. So if I want to access the help for Ascribe Coder, I click on more information, and it gives me the Ascribe Coder help system. And the same for Inspector, Accelerator, and Illustrator. Okay? So that's our product-based navigation. Again, the blue menu has gone away. We no longer have right-click and white space navigation. Rather, we have product-based navigation and our navigation icon. Okay, so what else is new on this home page? You may have noticed that we have this little hamburger up here, and I always forget what we call that, the pull-out menu. We have the pull-out menu up here, also called the hamburger. And what this does, this is new, and today it just gives us access to some tools that maybe don't make sense to be in our regular navigation menus. And this is the place where we can access what's new, agreements, and I think change password. What's new, agreements, and change password only appear over here in the hamburger menu or the pull-out menu. All right, click again to make that go away. We've been talking about putting project management tools over here. Again, we'd like some feedback on that and what you'd like to see there, and how that works for you as well. Most of the other items are available here under General. Anyway, okay? So that's the pull-out menu, or the hamburger, which is the technical term for it there. I did want to talk about the one-click shortcut. So some of you may use the one-click Ascribe logo shortcut today, and we access that by going to General User Options. So under General User Options, we have this Ascribe one-click page. And I've got mine set to Studies because I often navigate Supervisor Studies, and it's good to have that shortcut. But you can actually set it to whichever item makes sense for you. Okay? So what does that mean? What does the one-click navigation mean? This little logo in the bottom right-hand side of the page gives me direct access to Studies if I click on it. It's just a single click, and I go directly to the Studies page. So you got a little preview of what the Studies page looks like. We'll be looking at that in more detail in a minute. All right. So again, if I access General User Options, the Ascribe one-click page, I can set that to Studies, and I have instant access to Supervisor Studies without having to access any other menus, without having to access it there or here. Okay? I just click right here, and I'm back to Supervisor Studies. And I'm using my navigation icon that pops back over to Home. All right, so that's our one-click shortcut from User Options. One of the other things that I want to talk about here is F1. Again, I told you that F1 will bring up the overlay, which gives us direct access to our help system. If I click on this, it'll bring up my help system. Okay? Anywhere in Ascribe version 8.0, any page that we click F1 on will bring up help. So we're kind of trying to be more standardized, just like other applications, where F1 gets you directly to help. So now in Ascribe, F1 will bring up help for you for the page that you're on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit F1, and I'm going to go to my What's New page. And I'm going to go to the What's New page to kind of talk about the new look and feel, to start to talk about the new look and feel, this uniformity that has been implemented in version 8.0. So every page will now have a header, all right? So you see we have a header here. The header is this blue color. In the header, we will always have a name for the page. So this is my What's New page. That's going to be in the top right. And a navigation icon at the top left. Clicking on the navigation icon will bring up our main navigation menu. All right, and there's the Ascribe coder that I was looking for before. Some pages will have some tools on the header, in the header bar as well. And we'll see that in a minute. So every page will now have a header with a navigation icon and a name, and it will also have a footer with our one-click link. Okay, every page will have that look, feel to it. I'm going to now navigate directly to our Supervisor Studies page. So this is the Supervisor Studies page, and the way, again, we have our header, we have our footer. I'd like to also point out that we have a couple of tools in our header. We have the Add a New Study tool and a Restore Study tool, okay? So we can now add a new study by clicking on this magic wand. We can access the Restore Study dialog by clicking on the Restore Study icon. Those items are still available when we right-click. You'll notice that the right-click menu on the study grid is very much the same as the right-click menu is today in Ascribe, okay? The main difference on our studies page is, again, that uniformity, the header, the footer, and the coloring of the grid and the font of the grid. We have applied the Calibri font throughout Ascribe, and all the grids should now have the gray and white color to them, just again for uniformity, to make everything look the same, for that cohesive feel. All right? So this is the studies page. I should point out one more thing that some of you may have noticed. I'm using Chrome, and I have an Export to Excel icon here. All of our tables in Chrome will now have this Export to Excel icon. Well, I should say across all browsers now, we have the Export to Excel. All right? So you'll be seeing more of that. All right, so this again is kind of the uniform look and feel you'll see throughout. Now what I want to do is introduce you to our redesigned grids or tables. So some of our tables and grids are using a more modern grid system that's faster and gives us access to more tools. One of those is actually in our on our jobs page. So if I go to General Jobs, you'll see, well, and let me go ahead and do this month and refreshed. Actually, let me do last month and refresh. Okay, so this is our jobs page, and the jobs page is now using this new updated modern grid system. This grid system is going to be implemented on the studies page and the questions page eventually, but we wanted to introduce it here on the jobs page. Also, you'll see it on the administrator time accounting pages and transaction reports, and on a few of the other grids as well. So we wanted to introduce it first on some of the pages that we don't use every day, and let you get acclimated to it before we introduced it on the studies and questions page. So what you're going to see here is that we have a few tools above our grid. Of course, we've got the header, the name of the page, the navigation icon, and the footer at the bottom. That's going to be throughout Ascribe. This grid actually works a little differently than the tables that we saw on the studies page and the table that we'll see on the questions page. This grid can be customized. Each individual user can customize the grid, and it sticks. So the first thing to point out here is that we now have this Choose Columns icon. So we have these tools that go along with our grid here at the top. The other thing that I should point out before I get into Choose Columns is that we always know how many items we have in our grid. It tells us how many we're viewing of however many. The reason it says view 1 of 41 through 44 or 44, because if I had brought up 1,000 jobs it would only show me the first 50 or so. And as I scrolled down, it would say, okay, now we're bringing in, 1 through whatever, or 100 through 150, 150 through. Even though they're all here, it always tells us how many we're displaying. And that will make more sense if you have something with a lot of items or a lot of rows in it. So back to choose columns. I clicked on our little choose column icon here, and I can actually customize this to work the way or look the way that I want it to look. Okay? Maybe the type, I would prefer type at the very end. And maybe seconds, I don't want the seconds up there. I'm just interested in time created. And maybe username goes right after status. So I'm changing these around. And you'll notice that when I hit OK, it changes the table. It changes the grid. I can also resize these guys. So, and it sticks. So if I were to leave and come back, however I've resized them would actually stick. Okay? So if you got large file names, whatever, you can resize it. All right. We can also sort, and the sort sticks. Right now I know this is sorted by time created. Maybe I want mine sorted by completed, or by the status. I want my failed to come to the top. Maybe I want it by type. I know most of us would want it by time created so that the newest ones are at the top. But the little arrow indicates how we have, which column we have sorted, and whether it's in ascending or descending order. Okay? Again, all of this sticks. If I leave, I go to the home page, and I come back into jobs, you'll notice that it looks just the same. What doesn't stick, of course, is our dates. Here we go. So now everything looks just the same. All right. So that's our choose columns. We also have this find. So in this search or find, whatever you want to call it, it gives us access to show just the things. So let's say that I want just the usernames that contain Ascribe, and I hit search. So just the Ascribe support usernames will come up. And you'll notice it's now 1 of 38 that's showing here. But I can also say, you know what, I also want those that were of the type and maybe output, and hit search. So now I have just those Ascribe that were scripted outputs. Okay? And you can add these as many as you want. And you'll notice that, we've got contains, does not equal. So we've got a very advanced, very, very granular search here if we want it to be. Also, we've got an all or any search. So all means that, all is an or search. No, all is an and search, and any is an or search. Okay, so that's our new search. I've already talked about the output to Excel or save as Excel file. The final thing here is the reset grid settings. So if I change these and I'm like, you know what, I want those to go back to how they were when I first came in, I can reset the grid settings, and it will reset them back to the way they were when I first came in. You'll notice that seconds came back, and it looks the way it looks. Everything's in the order that it was when I first navigated in. We requested that. Our support team and training team requested that for when we are trying to help someone so that we could get the same settings on both screens. All right. So again, that's our redesigned grids and tables. They are a little faster than the others and just modernized. It's got that gray and white look and feel. And this, again, will be implemented in studies and questions eventually. I don't know which release that will happen in, but we wanted you to kind of give your feedback on how it works on the jobs page and then in the administrator time accounting and transaction reports, and you may run into it in a couple of other places. Okay, so now we're going to get into Ascribe Coder and talk a little bit about Ascribe Coder. All right, the first thing that I want to talk about with Ascribe Coder is code duplicates. So I'm just navigating into this guy here, and I'm going to access my response settings and go to Applied Codes, and pulling out the code duplicates options. Today, code duplicates in Ascribe Coder is if you have code duplicates turned on, then all the duplicates will be coded. It doesn't respect our filters. It doesn't respect our searches. Okay, it just applies it across the whole base, with the base here being 1,083. At the request of our users, you now have the option to just code duplicates in the displayed responses. So if you have a filter set, or if you've searched for a certain something, then you would just code the duplicates in the displayed responses. Okay? So your code duplicates options are now none. Do not code duplicates at all. All code duplicates in your whole base, even if you have a filter on, or displayed. Code duplicates just in the responses displayed. That's the new code duplicates options in Ascribe Coder. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is the paging restriction. So today, we will not, today in Ascribe on the live server, we will not show you more than 1,000 responses at a time. Okay, so we page responses by 1,000. That has now been lifted. So here, this is what you'll see today if you go into this question where we have 1,083 responses and try to return all responses. It'll show us one page with 1,000 responses and a second page with 83 responses. And you can see that here, responses displayed. The second number down says 83 over 1,083. Well, we thought that was too restrictive. So now the new limit is 30,000. Okay? You don't have to put 30,000 here. When you first log in to version 8.0, that number will be set to 1,000. You can just raise it to whatever number is manageable for you. But we restrict it to 30,000. We will not display more than 30,000 responses on a single page in version 8.0. All right, so that's the paging restrictions have been lifted. We're able to show up to 30,000 responses per page. Now I want to talk about some more in our response settings. If I bring the response settings back up, I'll go ahead and hit go just to show you that they're all on one page now, and bring our response settings back up. So in our response settings, on our appearance tab, we have a new set of tools here. We can now customize which tools we're showing on the Ascribe Coder, in the Ascribe Coder Responses toolbar. So you'll notice that we can remove the print tool, the filters and sorting tool, there's a little funnel up there, the sources tool, so the little rainbow up there, and the word list. So all of those can be hidden. We can also hide the search result counts, the numbers here, and the search settings, which tells us whether we have a filter or a sort and what the last search was. So we can now hide all of that. Now, if we've got those all hidden and we're coding, what can we do? We've given you access to those tools in the right-click in the navigation icons menu. I shouldn't say right-click because you just have to click on it. It's just the navigation icon. Now has a tools feature. So if you wanted to access print, you could. Okay. If you wanted to access filters and sorting, sources and word lists, you can access those tools now in your navigation icons menu. Also, something that's brand new is access to open sessions. Previously, we did not have access to open sessions from Ascribe Coder. Now you do. And again, to get to that menu, I click on the navigation icon, down to Tools, and here are those tools. You cannot hide, you absolutely cannot hide the search again, or response settings. Okay? Now I'm going to turn my counts and my search settings back on and talk a little more about the appearance. So you might also notice that in the font box here on my response settings in the appearance tab, in my font box, I now have the ability to change the font of the translation, the transcription, and the notes field. That's all new in version 8.0. Okay? Previously, our notes field was automatically set to italics. That's not the case anymore. We can set our notes to a different font, or we can bold them. All right. The verbatim font has a special item in the font size, and that's hide. So if I wanted to hide my verbatim, I could. Okay. You might ask, why would I want to hide my verbatim? Some of you know why, because we're the ones that are asking for it. If we have notes and we're cleaning up the study and we want to go through and look at the notes that people took to see if we need to add new codes, if we're looking at the other mentions, that's one reason. We just want to see the notes, not the verbatim. Or if we're coding from the translation, we maybe want to hide the verbatim. If we hadn't set the coding source to the translation, we might want to hide the verbatim as well. And there's just various reasons why it might be helpful sometimes to hide the verbatim. So we now have that option to hide the verbatim. You might ask, well, why don't we have that option for translation, transcription, notes? Well, that's because those are by default turned off anyway. And if we want to turn them on, then we toggle the little box to turn it on. Okay? All right. So those are our response settings. One more thing about the appearance that I like to point out. If I turn on my study ID, my question ID, and my respondent ID, you'll notice that they show up in Calibri 12. Those no longer change if I change my verbatim to comic 14. Notice that the study ID, question ID, and respondent ID stay Calibri 12. They're set. We don't change those. The user doesn't have access to change those anymore, and they're no longer connected to the verbatim. All right. Cool. So that's the response settings, the appearance tools there, and the appearance fonts. Okay. So now what I want to talk about is the fact that we keep track of the load date for filtering and sorting. So I'm going to bring back the filters and sorting icon. Okay, so we now, in our filters, you'll notice that we have a load date filter. So we keep track of the date a verbatim was loaded in. All right, so we've got the load date filter, and I did not want to click off that. That's okay. Also in sorting, we've got a load order sort, and we've got a load date sort. Okay, so you can sort by the date it was loaded or the order that the responses were loaded in. All right, so those are our two new sorts in Ascribe Coder. One more thing about single mode here, or the next thing is about single mode. I control click on the little icon to get into code single response mode. In code single response mode, there are two updates here. When you're coding, you can hit tab to get to the next response. So I'll just say this is another brand name, and I hit tab on my keyboard, and it takes me to the next response. Other brand name, tab on my keyboard, takes me to the next response. Tab on my keyboard, takes me to the next response, so on. Okay? All right. Now, make sure I explain that. So that is a shortcut to getting to the next response. And you notice I'm not saying to apply that code. The reason I'm not saying to apply the code is because the code is applied in this mode as soon as I click on it. That code is actually applied. I just need to move to the next response. It works a little different than the single response coder interface works today. All right. The next thing we can do is that we can actually now search for code by description. So if I type in DIX and hit enter, it finds my Dixie code. If I type in JEW and hit enter, it finds my Joule code. I hit enter again while that icon is in my find box, and it moves me to my next response. So that brought up my store brand code. I hit enter, it moves me to my next response. Previously, we could do that coding by number. We could type in the output ID and code that way. In version 8.0, we can now search the code book actually using text and actually apply that code. Okay, so that's new, searching for a code by the code description. Okay, so those are the two new things in single response mode. The next thing I wanted to talk about, let me just check my time real quick. Yes. The next thing I want to talk about is actually temporary samples. So I'm going to go back to multi-mode, again by control clicking on the settings. And notice when we hover over these, we get some shortcuts here. So I know control click on that toggles me between single response mode and multi-mode. And what I'm going to do is actually go into a different question. So I'm going to go into Q1. All right. So I'm in Q1, and I've got 1,096 responses in Q1 that I need to code. Okay. So I know that the 70 responses in Rhino make up 6% of 1,096. Now I'm going to actually set a filter. Filters. And I'm going to filter by my language question. And I'm going to bring up just my Spanish responses. I know that's language 1. There's 503 of those. Hit OK, close, and return my responses. OK. So I've brought up 380 responses, but actually what I want to do, I want to bring up all my responses because I just want to show what we've got going on here. OK. So in my filter, I have 503 responses. That's 45.9% of 1,096. Notice that my counts and percentage on my code book stay as they were. So it's still telling me that Rhino is 70 or 6% of 1,096. Some of us would rather see these counts, or not the counts, the percentages, based on the filter, okay, rather than based on the entire coding pool, all right? So how do we do that? So we bring up all of the filter, in this case 503, and I right-click and I say Create Sample. And it's telling me it's creating a temporary sample. And you know what? I'm gonna just go ahead and call this my Spanish filter, okay? And hit OK. So when I do that, you'll notice that now it's telling me that Rhino, the 70 Spanish responses that are coded in Rhino, make up 14% of the 503, okay? And when I bring up all of my responses, it says 503 is 100%, all right? We can still see how many it is, that it's 45.9% of the 1,096 in our stats here, okay, for question respondents. But I just wanted to make sure this is temporary samples. Down here in my sources, you'll see that it's telling me that I'm now coding from the Spanish filter, all right? This temporary sample is available until I log out. So I can go back to questions and go in and code something else and come back into question 1. When I navigate into it, it's going to just be plain old question 1 with the base of 1,096. I'll change this back just so we see this. Okay, hit go. So the base is 1,096, but now I can just use my sources, and I'm going to just access sources over here. I can use my sources and turn on my sample because it sticks, it's available until I log out and log back in, okay? So now my sample has become my base, 503. Notice over here it's become my base, 503, okay? And just so that we're all very clear on what I did, this is the sources icon. And if I wanted to go back to the question as the base, then I would do this. And you'll notice now the base is back to 1,096. I wanted to make that very clear because that works a little different than review responses today. And this is in the live server today, if you set a filter, your counts and percentages are still based on that entire response pool rather than the filter. So we introduced this sampling, this temporary samples, to allow you to see or set your sample at your user sample as your base. Okay. So that's temporary samples. I think I talked about all of those. And the final thing that I wanted to talk about is ACM, or accelerator. Basically, to create a model today, you have to change the codebook properties and just name it. So this is actually an accelerator. Our accelerator has been simplified to the max. It's one page that lists any accelerators you have. You open them here. It opens a page very similar to Ascribe Coder that we're all used to. The only difference is that in this mode, we can actually edit our accelerator examples and do some other stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that for those of you that have seen accelerator or used what we used to call ACM, it has now been completely simplified. We've removed like 10 pages, put it all in one place, and made things much more accessible, easier to use, easier process flow. All right, and this is what we're doing with Ascribe. We're trying to make everything more accessible, give it that same look and feel, and reuse pages that you're already familiar with instead of inventing something brand new out of the box. All right, so the question that always comes up at this point that I want to talk about is review responses, single response coder interface, and edit the codebook. Those three windows were supposed to be removed from Ascribe on September 19th. We are not removing them on September 19th. We are leaving them available until 2015. The plan is to remove them in January of 2015 permanently. But since the fourth quarter is a very busy time for our customers, some of the feedback we had was that people needed more time. So we are leaving review responses, single response coder interface, and edit the codebook until January of 2015. But we will no longer be supporting those tools. And you will get a message when you log into those tools letting you know such. So if you have any issues with it or you want to know how to do something with review responses, a single response coder interface, or edit the codebook, our support team will not be able to help. They will be able to move you to Ascribe Coder to do the same task. Okay? So it is imperative that all teams still transition to Ascribe Coder as soon as possible or feasible for your team. But I just wanted to make sure that I shared that with everyone. So there's 1 minute for any questions that may have come up, or if you have any questions, go ahead and submit them. And I can address those. Antoine, Julie, are there any questions that came up?
Yes, there's one question. Actually, there's a couple of them popping me in now. So the first question is, is there a way to set the code duplicates in display view only as the default at the account level?
No, there is not, but that's a request that we can put in. We don't have an account options default for code duplicates today, but I understand that people are asking for that. And it's funny, people are also asking for an account level way to disable review responses in the single response coder interface. We don't have that. But if you would like review responses to be disabled, please send that email to support, and we'll talk about that more with our development team and see if there's a way that we can do that for the individual accounts, because I know that's been a popular request as well when we talk about the fact that review responses is going to stick around. Some people want to go ahead and turn it off on their account. So yeah, we'll send an email to support on that. And the code duplicates thing, we'll open a case on that as well. Any other questions, Antoine?
Yes. The next one is there any changes in the questions page?
I usually hit the questions page, and I hit it for a second. The only change to the questions page that I'm aware of is the fact that we now have access to codebook properties for the codebook that's in that question at the question level. So we could change it to an account codebook, or create an accelerator directly from the question rather than having to go into Ascribe Coder and click on the codebook node and then choose codebook properties. So Antoine or Julie, is there anything else that we should note about the questions page? The questions page hasn't been, today, the jobs page is our new kind of grid system. The questions page is still using our old grid system. It has not been completely modernized as of yet. So it still works very much the same as it does on the live server. And you can log into version 8.0 and give it a go just to understand that. So if I sort the questions page and then navigate out and come back in, it's going to go back to the way it was sorted originally. Those things don't stick. And I don't want you to get confused between the questions page grid and the jobs page grid. It's got the new look feel to it, but it's not using the new grid tool. You know, I hope I didn't confuse that too much. Is that good enough, Antoine?
Yeah, I think that answered that question.
Okay.
Here's the next question. Will we be having more Ascribe Coder training sessions?
Yes, yes. We've been focused on version 8.0 right now and kind of getting the testing out and getting our conferences out of the way. We will have more Ascribe Coder training sessions. What I'm planning to do is maybe schedule 2 of those a month. We also have webinars from previous, but I kind of want to get those. I want to get those updated for the version 8.0. So once 8.0 is up, we're going to be doing some more Ascribe Coder sessions. Also, we do have a couple lessons that we can give to you. If you're interested in those, email support, and Antoine will respond with the lessons and the webinars that are on YouTube. But yes, we will be having more of those. And if an individual company would like an Ascribe Coder training session, you know, contact us, and we are more than happy to help get your team going with Ascribe Coder. All right, anything else?
Yes. Is this the last training session before version 8.0 launches?
Yes, as this video will be published, the video that we're doing right now will actually be published on our YouTube site. If you search Ascribe Coder on YouTube, you'll see our videos will come up. So this webinar that I did today will actually be published out there. You'll have access to that. I don't plan on doing any more version 8.0 webinars, other than I will be scheduling some accelerator webinars, and you know, but if need be, if enough people request it, we can do some more live webinars. What I'm hopeful for is that this video is enough, and you can share this video with your team to go through at their convenience. All right.
Okay, you have one more question.
Okay.
Are there any changes to Phrase Analyzer?
No. The development team is actually working on Phrase Analyzer right now. Phrase Analyzer will be just the same as it is today. They are rewriting Phrase Analyzer. We're looking at the end of 2014, early 2015. They haven't actually given us a date yet for the Phrase Analyzer port. So originally it was supposed to be October of this year. That does not seem to be happening. They're giving it very careful consideration to make sure it does everything we need it to do before we release the modernized version of Phrase Analyzer. So Phrase Analyzer is going untouched in version 8.0.
Okay, and you mentioned that you were going to do some training sessions for Accelerator. Do you have any dates in mind yet?
No, we don't have. I don't have dates on that yet. It was more important that we get it completely tested and out the door. And after it's out the door, I will be scheduling Accelerator webinars and Accelerator training sessions for individual companies. Anything else?
Someone wanted to talk about, here's a question. Can we access dual code books by hovering over the question instead of entering into Ascribe Coder to access dual code book?
No, not today. So you want to have access to dual code books here, just like we have access to codebook properties. Nope, you actually have to go into Ascribe Coder and then go to dual code books. But that's a request, Antoine, that we can actually ask for as well.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
That was the last question.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for your time today. I know a few people dropped off, but most of you stuck with us. This is one of the biggest groups we've had yet, and I'm very grateful that everybody's interested in version 8.0. If you need anything else about version 8.0, first of all, remember that from the home page you can, when you get logged in, you will see this overlay. You can access what's new there to see everything that's new. Also, from the home page, you can access what's new through the little flyout menu. What's new is available here. Okay? And if you need anything else at all or have any questions, please email support@languagelogic.net. And we're looking forward to hearing from you on what you think about version 8.0. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.